Have to do anything, or are we ready to go?
We're ready to go. Give me a couple seconds. Down to 10 seconds right now. Down to 5, 4.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana, home of Mark and Desiree Jaynes, I might add. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by the Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple of quick things to mention. Dave Brown, as everybody knows, had open heart surgery a week ago Monday, and he's recovering, albeit slowly, but he is getting better, making progress. This Saturday, it's the Grand Prix, the opening of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Indianapolis Grand Prix takes place. Friday, there's practice and qualifying for the Mazda Road to Indy and the Indy cars, and then on Saturday, there's 4 races. I think the Mazda 3 Series run a race on Friday, and then they run again on Saturday. You need to get out there, see what's going on. There'll be a lot of activity. And next week, I have a guest that you may have read about and heard about. Ed Jones, driving for Ganassi, will be here. And we're working on a couple of other potentials to come along with him. I also want to mention the Acura Team Penske completed a nearly perfect weekend for the manufacturer at the major sports car racing return to Mid-Ohio Sports Car. Elio Castroneves and Ricky Taylor finished 1-2 in the Sunday Acura Sports Car Challenge at Mid-Ohio. Great event. They ran away and hid from about everybody. Now my first 2 guests are 2 gentlemen who will be in qualifying and in the Freedom 100. Sitting the farthest away from me is a fisherman. He is from Rice Lake, Wisconsin. He's a graduate of University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. His hobbies are racing, I hope, golf, snowboarding, wakeboarding, Star Wars, and painting landscapes. Obviously, he's a race car driver. Please welcome, driving for the fine Bellardi team. Say hello to Mr. I forgot your name. What's your name again? I know. Aaron Telitz. And sitting next to him is a gentleman that has a name that is one of the most popular names around the Speedway. He is making his debut in the Indy Lights and the Freedom 100. He's got an outstanding career in the open wheels divisions of USAC, and he's back here to make a shot at the Freedom 100. Please welcome Mr. Davey Hamilton Jr. Now, Aaron, when I put out that you were coming, that's your microphone.
All right.
Unless you're going to shout.
I can shout.
Oh, no. I got a number of emails and questions that said in your bio, and I will quote it. You were cleaning fish since the age of 8. You can now clean a fillet of bluegill in 25 seconds. How does that translate speed with driving a race car?
Yeah, so my parents own a family fishing resort in northern Wisconsin called the Fred Thomas Resort, and so my job growing up as a kid was filleting fish for the resort guests. It was just a fish cleaning service, so they would catch the fish, and if they didn't want to fillet them, my brother and I would fillet them for them. So we got really good because we got paid by the fish, not how long we were there. So the faster you were, the more money you made in a shorter period of time. So, yeah, I've got quick hands in a race car.
What got your interest in motorsports, to racing? How?
My dad was big into racing. When he was growing up, he worked on stock cars, and then he did ice racing up in Wisconsin. I don't know if your lakes freeze down here, but they freeze so thick in Wisconsin that people drive out big haulers and unload cars, and they race on the ice. So it's pretty exciting. And so he got my brother and I into go-kart racing when we were younger, and turned out I was pretty good at it. So I just kind of took it from there.
And now you've been, in addition to karting, you've been in all 3 of the series for the Mazda Road to Indy program. You're now in the Indy Lights. You've got wins under your belt. You've proven yourself to be a talented driver. Think you're ready yet to move up to IndyCar?
Yeah, I even got my first chance to drive an Indy car at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway earlier this year with Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports on the road course. So I've got to test an Indy car, and that went well. So I feel like I'm more than ready to do it. But my first goal is to claw back into this Indy Lights Championship and try and win it.
You've had a couple of bad events that were not your fault, but it didn't end up. In fact, one or two of them, I don't think you even got a lap.
Yeah, I've had more or less no good luck this year, just nothing but bad luck. Really, the only mistake I can say I made this year is I did completely destroy my car in qualifying for the St. Pete Grand Prix. I had qualified on pole for race 1 and then was just going for another pole lap in qualifying 2 and rode off my entire car in qualifying 2. So I didn't get to start race 1, but my awesome Belardi Auto Racing team found another car for me, put it together, and got it ready for race 2, which I then got crashed into by another driver at the start of the race. So what a weekend.
Yeah, a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Not at all.
Davey, you come from a father who is probably one of the most popular drivers that has been to the Speedway. Does that present a problem for you when you come in and say, what's your name? Davey Hamilton, Jr. Is that a problem?
No, I mean, it's not really a problem. I mean, once I say my name, everybody knows who my dad is. But, you know, hopefully one day, you know, I could be known for myself and my accomplishments. But having a name like that, it's a huge help in a way as well. So.
It would have been easier if it was Billy Hamilton. They wouldn't have known.
No, I mean, I'm fine with sticking with Davey Hamilton Jr. That's good enough for me.
Other than the fact that your father is a race car driver, was there ever anything else you wanted to do? I mean, did you want to work at McDonald's and flip hamburgers, or have you wanted to race since as far as you can remember?
Well, you know, my dad threw me a go-kart at the age of 4. So, I mean, ever since I was 4 years old, I've just been racing. A few years ago, I tried doing construction, was like thinking, oh my gosh, I might just end racing and just start something different. I lasted about a month and realized that was the wrong decision and went back to the broke race car driver style and begging for rides. So it's kind of where I want to be, at least.
Does your dad help you a lot? I know he said that getting you to listen is kind of tough, so he sent you out to California with somebody else. Let them teach him.
Yeah, me and my dad don't. I take advice from him the best I can, but we always butt heads. It's just like a father-son type thing. But, I'll definitely take advice from him as much as I can. But when he's telling me what to do, it's hard to, all right, I'll do exactly what you want me to do. But, it's okay, I guess.
Then once you strap in, that doesn't necessarily all happen.
Yeah, he used to be my spotter for a few things, and having him in my ear was just the wrong thing. I'll never do that again.
You had an opportunity a few years back in the lights with McCormick, and that never came to pass. Has it been a struggle since that time? Finally you managed to get here? No,
I really appreciate everything that they've done for me. I had so much testing in the new Indy Lights car, and we obviously went out and raced. But in today's world, it's really hard to stay competitive when you don't have data, you don't have an engineer, you don't have all those extra tools to be able to compete. But they did a lot for me, so I can't thank them enough for even giving me the opportunity to drive their car for a couple of years. After that, it wasn't very difficult to figure out what I wanted to do, but I made sure that I was going to do it the right way and the proper way. And even though that meant sitting out maybe for a year or two in the Indy Lights stuff and just focusing on finding the proper funding to do it with the proper team, I knew that's what I needed to do. That way there's nothing negative that could come out of it.
So who are your sponsors? You said you got dinners to attend and so forth. Who are your sponsors?
Yeah, so one of my main sponsors that's helped me out for the past year and a half is Always Evolving. They help supply cars to all the Fast and the Furious movies, so it's pretty cool. But that's my biggest supporter for everything that I'm doing this year.
Have you made any guest appearances in any of their programs?
I keep telling them, they have some stuff on Netflix and, other movies, but I beg them to give me an opportunity, but I haven't, won that stripe yet, basically, so I don't know if I'll ever get that opportunity.
Aaron, you spend most of your time, because I've been trying to get you since forever, and they said, well, the race is over, he goes back to Wisconsin. Why don't you hang around here where all the activity is?
I mean, I just love Wisconsin. I actually live in Minneapolis now, closer to an airport. Love Minneapolis, like Wisconsin. I like Indy too, though. Love the racetrack. You guys have some epic pothole problems, though. Here, I have to tell you, I can't explain to you enough. So in Wisconsin, we have this beer called Spotted Cow, which maybe some of you have heard of, but you can only buy it in Wisconsin. And so a lot of people want it down here. And so I brought a few cases down with me, but I'm worried to check the cases of beer to see how many broke on the way down running over potholes.
Back many years ago, when we used to go west, they didn't sell Coors here. And we'd come back with cases of it.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, when we sold everything and added up, we made a couple of bucks. Are you able to get Spotted Cow on a profitable operation?
Yeah, I mean, people pay me for Spotted Cow when I bring it down here. It's kind of a commodity. I've been trying to get Spotted Cow to sponsor me at the race in Road America. I've yet to get that to happen yet, but I'm still working on it. And I tell you what, when I become a IndyCar driver, I'll live here so I can hang out with you guys more.
Really? Who's going to clean the fish?
I don't do fish cleaning anymore.
Oh,
I can still clean
excuse
them
me.
fast, but I don't. I actually had some kids down the road. I had been training them in a few years ago, and so now they've taken over the fish cleaning business.
What's the name of your resort?
The Fred Thomas Resort.
Fred Thomas. And is that any relation to Aaron Telitz and family?
Yes, it is. So Fred Thomas is my great-grandpa. He started the resort in 1925.
And where is it?
In Birchwood, Wisconsin. So north of Rice Lake.
Do you know where Beaver Dam is? Wisconsin?
Where at? Do the Wisconsin thumbprint.
It's southeast of Madison.
Southeast of Madison. Oh, no, I wouldn't know where that is. Too far south. It still snows there. Yeah.
And Lake Beaver freezes and they race on it, so I thought you might have heard of it.
Okay.
Have you ever raced at Beaver Dam Speedway?
No, I have not.
Have you?
No.
Really? No. Don't you run USAC a lot, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't know if they still go there.
I think they do.
Yeah.
I think so. In Angel Park? You've been to Angel Park.
No, haven't been there either.
Do you?
I don't do dirt.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
That would be a problem. Is your dad still got the King of Wings?
No, he actually sold the series last year, but I still compete in it. You know, I was the champion in 2016 when he still owned it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like controversy of like, oh,
sure,
he's the son of the owner of the series, so they're doing something. But no, he ended up selling it.
I see. He had another series that he started. He sold that too.
Yeah, he started a few and ends up selling them all the time.
Yeah,
so.
That's nice. Is your grandpa still racing?
No, we finally got him to hang up the helmet a little. So
You're kidding.
It's a little risky to have him out there.
You had to nail it to the wall, I'm sure, so he couldn't get it down.
Yeah.
That's amazing. He raced until into his 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Yeah. Oh well. You now live here in town. You're here all the time.
Yeah, I live here. I was living in San Francisco for the past 3 years, but this is where I needed to be, so I ended up coming back.
Now, did Dad tell you this is where you need to be, and you listened for a change?
Well, I just no, yeah. I mean, in a way, this is where I need to be if I want to, keep racing for a while. So I ended up getting my own place, and at least I'm in the middle of it all.
There you go.
Yep.
Aaron, the idea of moving up to Indy cars, what do you think it takes for you, a young driver moving up, to be able to be competent and have the ability to drive an Indy car? Because there's a lot more power. But now that the new car light has almost all of the same gadgetry that the Indy car has, so you don't have to get in and learn how to drive the thing. Since you've driven one, are they pretty close to the lights in IndyCar? Fairly close?
Yeah, honestly, they handle a lot the same. They have a lot of the same characteristics. I never drove the other AeroKit IndyCar that had way more downforce, but apparently now drivers who've been coming out of Indy Lights have said that the car feels similar to an Indy car. Obviously, the Firestone tires are a lot different, a lot bigger. You've got carbon brakes. That's something to get used to as well. The Indy Lights car doesn't have that. The other thing is that the Indy car has twin turbos, and the Indy Lights car only has a single turbo. So although the Indy car has a ton more power, it comes in smoother. It's almost easier. This sounds weird, but it's almost easier to manage the power of an Indy car versus an Indy Lights car, because the single turbo just kind of kicks on and you just get all your power right away.
Does the speed concern either one of you? I mean, do you, at the Speedway in particular, I'm thinking because that's the next race, an Indy car, a straight line speed now is in that 230s and above. Does it speed and you look in your mirror and there's a guy right next to you, does that bother you?
Nah, I think speed's all relative.
Well, you're used to it running the short tracks. There's always somebody around you someplace.
Yeah, you're always around somebody.
And so that doesn't affect you. You're not concerned.
No, I'm not.
I see. How did you hook up with Dale Pelfrey?
I've actually been in conversation with them before even the McCormick days so it's been like 4 years, but it just came down to the sponsorship, and that's why nothing ever happened. But now that it's there, I thought it was a good fit. So, we just kind of worked together a deal and made it happen.
Dale Pelfrey and Team Pelfrey has really done quite a job. They're in the Mazda Road to Indy program, and the drivers that come out of there are good. You seem to learn a lot, and they've got a heck of a crew, and they give you a good car.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why I'm glad to be a part of them, just because I'm taking this whole experience and opportunity as a learning curve. All I want to do is just learn and see as good as I can, do as good as I can. But I met with the team a few weeks ago and kind of met the engineer and met everybody, and I could tell this is gonna be a good fit for me. So.
And you're with Bilardi, and Bilardi now has another guy who's driving, and he's sitting over there in the corner coming out of the USAC short tracks, and he's a championship caliber driver and won numerous races. Bilardi is like Pelfrey. They give you a good car. When you get in a Bilardi car, you know it's capable of winning. That's what John told me to say, so that's what I said.
Always listen to John. That's almost rule number 1 at Bilardi.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely listen to John, but at the same time, just give him as much shit as possible.
Oh, well, I go along with that too. Does Brian Bilardi come to most of the races or not?
Yeah, Brian comes to all the races, most of the test days as well. So Brian's really hands-on, an awesome team owner, and a great guy to give, guys like Chris a shot, and myself and Santi a shot at racing in Indy Lights.
Huh? Really? I understand that there's a possibility that he would like to at some point, whether it's next year or 3 years, to move up to IndyCar. That's part of his goal eventually. When I asked Ricardo Uncos, you want to go to IndyCar? No, we got enough here. Well, guess where he is. So would you like, if they put a program together and offered you a ride, would you stay with them?
Yeah, of course I would. I love the Bilardi guys, and obviously driving an IndyCar is my goal. And if Brian makes an IndyCar team and offers me to drive the car, I'm going to say yes right away.
Who are your sponsors?
So my main sponsor is Rice Lake Weighing Systems, which is a company out of Rice Lake, Wisconsin. But for any of you guys that want something to attach to it, if you ever fly on Delta Airlines and you weigh your bag before you get on the plane, that scale is most likely a Rice Lake Weighing System scale. They also make truck scales, rail scales, medical scales, crane scales, pretty much scales of any kind.
So they don't have anything that would weigh a lightweight like me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
I'm sure they would.
How did you hook up with them?
Yeah, so I hooked up with Rice Lake Weighing Systems. A family friend of mine just introduced me, or didn't introduce me, told me who the president of the company was. So I called the main offices 6 years ago and just asked for Mark Johnson Jr., and they patched me through to his office phone, and for some reason he decided to pick up, and so then I asked to have a meeting with him, and he agreed, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I got pretty lucky.
Do you think he would move up with you?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously heavily invested in my career, and I told them that no matter what, wherever I go, there's going to be a Rice Lake Weighing Systems logo on my car, no matter what. So, I don't know exactly where their budget would be for IndyCar. Obviously, that's a lot more than Indy Lights or anything else that I've been doing, but I would do everything I could to make sure they can come along with me.
Do you make appearances for them if they have meetings in central area, in Wisconsin or Minnesota, wherever? Do you go there and make appearances?
Yeah, absolutely. I do appearances. I usually have a car show every year. My race car will come up to the Rice Lake Weighing Systems facility, and we'll do some kind of event. This year, we're combining one of my other sponsors, Maury's Automotive Group, which is a dealership out of Minneapolis. We're bringing up some brand new Maury's cars to the Rice Lake Weighing Systems facility, and employees get to go on test drives during their lunch breaks and check out some new cars. My race car will be there, and I'll be there hanging out. So yeah, we do a lot of activation. Rice Lake guests come to almost every single race, so they're there being entertained by John. John puts on his happy face and talks to guests. Not really. He normally pawns them off on me.
Yeah. Well, he tells me he's just too busy. He's got to get your car ready so you can win.
Yeah, that's true too. He is pretty busy doing that.
Do you have you had to make any appearances for your sponsors?
Oh yeah, I've been all over. They tend to throw parties here in town.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually downtown, so they come from California and do some stuff down there. So, yeah. I mean, if any new sponsor or anything like that, I make sure to go out of the way and hang out with them or go to their events.
Do any of the executives from them show up at the races?
Yeah. Not most. Sometimes, but not all the time. No.
I see. Do they sponsor your short track programs as well?
Not really. So like the short track stuff that I do is more the team kind of has me come in, and I just bring whatever sponsored me in the higher end stuff. I just kind of support them through it all.
So which of the cars are you driving? Your sprint cars, I assume, midgets?
And this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this year I'll be doing some Silver Crown stuff in the second half of the season, along with some Stadium Super Truck stuff again.
Oh,
yeah, that's a lot of fun. And then, after the Freedom 100, there's potential of doing more. We just want to get through the month first.
Have you had opportunity to race with Matt Brabham?
Oh, yeah.
Have you beat him?
Oh, he's very competitive, but yes, I have. I've been.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know he's won. I think the last two events that I'm aware of,
Yeah.
he
wins
won
quite a bit. Yeah, they just raced down in Australia. I don't know where he ended up both races, but he's very good, very talented. Yeah. Anything you put him in, he's gonna compete up front.
He needs to be an IndyCar. Why don't you?
I agree.
Why don't you give him some pointers how to sell sponsors?
Yeah, I don't know if I have too many pointers on that, but.
What do you do when you're not racing, which is most of the time, but when you have time, what do you do?
Well, I sponsor find. I cold call just about every company you could think of and just hope for the best, and kind of like what he did. And but yeah, I like going out to Idaho because that's where I'm from.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So whenever I'm not really doing anything here in town, I go there and hang out with my family.
I see. Do you go to Pit Fit or?
No, I just work out on my own, man. I used to go to Pit Fit, but I'm
Stay strong. Keep working out on your own. Don't go to Pit Fit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Where do you go, Aaron? Where do you go?
I just work out on my own as well. Yeah, I go biking or lift weights in a gym. I don't need a fancy Pit Fit membership.
Does Velarde have weights in their shop?
They don't. But I could always try benching John Bruner.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah.
Well, they tell me he's kind of sitting around a lot of times, so it shouldn't be hard to find him.
No, yeah, it wouldn't be too hard.
He's shaking his head. I think we're in trouble here. I'm not sure. Now, I know you two guys have appearances to make, and you were kind enough to come here. And I know you need to skedaddle, so I appreciate you taking the time. It was good to meet you. If you ever move down here, we'll talk to you again. But you're going up training 8-year-olds on how to fillet fish. It's kind of a big job.
It is. It is a serious job.
I know. It's tough. Want to wish you guys nothing but the best. The Indy Lights race in the last few years has been one of the best in history of anything at the Speedway. Hopefully this year will be another good one. And who knows, maybe one of you two will stand on the top of the podium step.
Be good. That'd be exciting.
We'll be going for it, yeah.
Yeah. Davey Hamilton Jr. and Aaron Telitz. Look for them for the Freedom 100. Thanks. Thanks for being here. My next guests are on their way up, Dave. I want to remind you that Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana is a place to find the best prices in the country because, strangely enough, Daleville is in the country. You just take I-69 to exit 34, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss him on the right. Sam Pierce Chevrolet, and you'll find out why he's always rated at the top of customer satisfaction, because everybody loves it. He stands alongside you, not behind you, when he sells you a car. You want to take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience 2-seater? That's easy. Just go on to IndyRacingExperience.com, pick out a date, a location, and sign up. And when you do in the promo box, put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda at the office. The number is 317-243-7171. You will find out when you take a ride why these guys and gals love driving Indy cars. And I got news for you. These cars are fairly quick. They run pretty fast. You get a real feel for what it's like to drive an Indy car. Is it time for you to get a price on your insurance for your car, your home, or your commercial property? Do what I did. Call Mike Pardee. He'll give you a quote, and you might be surprised you get better coverage for less money. And if you have a problem, Mike is always there to help you. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. You give him a call. His number is 317-248-0070. That's Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. 317-248-0070. And if you're a vintage car fan, and of course the SVRA will be here in June, along with Trans Am, they're going to be running here. You got to subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. Just go to svra.com and subscribe to the magazine. It's a first-class magazine, great stories, great pictures, great everything. You'll love it. So go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. And the next event upcoming will be May 17th to the 20th at it's the 2018 Spring Vintage Festival at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. If you're anywhere in the area, get up there. You'll love it. And if you got a computer problem, like I seem to have quite frequently, call Jack at Computer Overdrive. He can fix anything. Number 317-328-0766. And if you want to find out what's going on with the Indy cars and the Mazda Road to Indy program, subscribe to TracksideOnline.com. You get all the information you need, but go and check them out. It's only about $23 or $24 a year, and you'll get all of the PR from all of the teams, both in the Indy Car Series and the Mazda Road to Indy program. That's TracksideOnline.com. The next event for the Classic Racing Times will be at Pocono, so keep your eyes open. If you're going out to Pocono, check it out. It's a great show. There'll be a lot of cars. You'll have a good time. My next two guests are gentlemen who are involved, and one of them is returning to racing. The family is back in racing. We'll start with the young man next to me. He's going to be driving the car that's being put together. It will be run by Bilardi. He is a USAC champion. He's won any number of events and any number of vehicles. He's one of the best USAC's got, and he's getting his shot at the Freedom 100 in the Indy Lights car. Please welcome Mr. Chris Windom. And sitting next to him is part of the Jonathan Byrd racing team. His brother was here a few weeks ago. He is now Jonathan Byrd II is the president of Speedrome. David comes in from Goodyear, Arizona, but he waits till it's warm enough to come back. He oversees the Byrd Hotel, the Byrd Hotel Corporation, and they are getting back involved in the sport slowly but surely this year with the Freedom 100 and Chris, but they're also doing something in the IndyCar division. We'll find out about that, but please welcome. I think that if Jonathan were here today, he would be thrilled with what his sons are doing. Please welcome Mr. David Byrd. Is the Freedom 100 something you have laid awake night after night saying, I want to run there, I want to race there?
I don't know if you'd say that for sure. Just the right opportunities arose this year.
How many nights a week do you run?
Well, it depends.
A year, I should say.
A year, we're close to 90 races a year. So I've been about 3 nights a week every weekend for the past month or so.
What's your preference? What car do you like the best, or don't you care?
Whichever one's the next race, really.
Is there one that you feel more comfortable in, the sprint car? Or?
Yeah, I enjoy the dirt sprint cars. That's what we get to. That's the majority of our schedule of the year. Is 45 national races on the schedule, and I also really enjoy the Silver Crowns. We only run those 11 times, and they're normally on mile race tracks, so they're a lot of fun running a dirt car on a mile racetrack's a blast.
Is there a big change now when you come here? Unless there's a huge storm, the speedway's not dirt.
It's not.
No, I've kind of figured that out since 1963, that it isn't dirt. Is that a hard thing to get used to or not?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a big transition. You know, I've had quite a bit of pavement experience with the open wheel cars and some with stock car stuff. So I've been on higher speed places, but it's definitely going to be a learning curve going to the speedway.
You've been on higher speed places in the speedway in a lights car?
Not higher speed than the speedway, just high speed racetracks.
Oh, okay. David, your dad was involved in racing for many, many, many years, and I'm sure you and your brother would drug along and got indoctrinated into it for years. You got away from it. I think the last time I saw your dad was at the speedway when he came out to watch a few years back. But you guys have now are starting to get back into it. You're down in the Southwest, and your brother's running the speedway. But you've managed to put together a program. You're with Bilardi and bringing Chris on along. Are you looking to build over the next year or 2 years to get back to where your dad used to be involved in Indy cars?
Most of Dad's involvement in IndyCar related was running the 500. So that's what we focused on. You know, we did run the Indy Racing League from '96 through 2000 and kind of cut that off in 2001. So something we never got involved in was Indy Lights. We never got involved in sprint car racing at all. So really trying to take a multifaceted approach. We're running the 500 this year with James Davison. We put the program together with the Foyt team and with Brian Bilardi and Brad Hollinger and myself, and then added the Indy Lights program because we want to be able to bring a deserving USAC champion to the speedway. And Chris was certainly that. I mean, people know the story, may not know the story. After Chris won his second USAC championship, being the Sprint Car Championship last year, I just sent him a message on Twitter and said, "Hey, give me a call." And when he called, I asked him if he was interested in going to the speedway, and he said he was. So that was encouraging because I think some guys may not have that interest and that passion. So. So it kind of put it all together, and it's bringing Bilardi up into the 500 as well as part of that program, and then running Chris with the Bilardi team. And it's we want to do Indy every year and have that as the foundation, but that's also the foundation for Indy's there. But then we can add the Lights program. We can do sprint car racing. We can sponsor Chris in sprint cars, sponsor other drivers in sprint cars. We're actually sponsoring Mr. Hamilton as well.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So we want to be involved with grassroots racers that are trying to make their way to the speedway. We want to have an involvement in that.
Well, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, when Tony George started the Indy Racing League, that was his goal, is to bring the young drivers from United States Auto Club and short track race, bring them to the speedway, and that kind of collapsed. But I think there's a lot of guys like a Dave Darwin should have been here, without any question. Brian Clausen was starting to move up where he would have been a competitive driver.
Yeah, I mean, we did a couple programs with Brian, obviously, and we had a long-term plan. It didn't obviously, did not work out as we'd hoped, but I think that Chris certainly has shown what he can do in multiple types of cars, and it's a transition, and you can't just go. I mean, for all it's worth, I mean, there's 90 races a year, winning races, winning championships. It's important to take that transition you just can't go from the dirt track to the Indy car anymore. You really do have to do a transition to Indy Lights and drive that type of car, learn the process, learn the procedure, working with the engineers and the crew chief and get in the field because honestly at the 500 level the team owners are not going to take a chance on somebody that didn't get that type of experience, and the manufacturers are probably going to say, yeah, maybe we're not going to be on board with that until somebody goes through Indy Lights. So it's just Chris is going through the process and doing it in a way that 40, 50 years ago, he would have been a USAC champion. USAC champion goes to Indy.
Right.
Now it just needs to be a different process. That's what we're doing.
If the opportunity opened up for you to run more than just the 500 or the Freedom 100 and then run a couple more races in the Lights, would you do it?
Oh, for sure.
If you could fit it in your schedule.
Yeah, definitely. It'd have to fit into the schedule because what I race, I race for a living, and that's what we do every weekend. But definitely would be on board to go with more races.
Is it in the back of your mind that maybe at some point in a couple of years we might end up being at 16th in Georgetown for the Indianapolis 500?
I think that's the ultimate goal. Just taking it one step at a time now, and we just got the first test in the lights car last week, so we'll.
How was it?
It was a lot of fun.
Really?
A lot different, but I feel like I got pretty comfortable with the car, and now the next step is to make the first laps at the Speedway.
That's got to be kind of fun to look forward to. I mean, being a professional race driver, obviously you love racing, and that's what you want to do. And the ultimate goal is to get to the 500. And now the Byrd Racing is giving you the opportunity to get started, backing you in your sprint car efforts around the country as well. So that's got to be kind of neat. The possibility is there.
It is. We race that many times a year, but then to add a race like this on the schedule, it's going to be a pretty humbling experience, and I'm looking forward to doing it with David and Blardy Auto Racing and everyone that's behind us here.
David, what does your mother think about this? Is she all for it? She think it's great, or is she going, uh-oh?
I've convinced her that she's all for it. No, she's into it. She gets a kick out of it. She loves coming out to the track, and she'll be there every day starting next Tuesday. She'll be out there for practice, qualifying, race. We'll probably have her throw the green flag for the qualifying run, and she's all over it.
Now, is your brother going to be involved, or is he too busy cleaning up the speedrome?
He's busy. He's definitely going to divide his time. But he's definitely gonna be involved. He'll be on the pit stand, and on a race day, when we're discussing strategy and all those things. I mean, it's a group project, but he's got his dream job right now, actually. So he's enjoying that, and
he's doing well. They've got they've brought people back in the stands again.
Yeah, people back in the stands, more cars coming to the track, and doing something that really revitalized a historic track. And all hats off to Kevin Garrigus and his whole team there, and they're just making the investment. That's what short track racing needs, is people willing to invest. And so people invest in racetracks, people invest in drivers, and it carries on.
Chris, have you ever run the speedrome?
I did. I actually won my first Kenyon midget race there.
Really?
Yep.
That's a neat place to run, but it's small, but it's good. It's a
very
fun
good track to learn at.
Yeah. Trouble is, you didn't run when Mel Kenyon was there. You'd find out that, or did you race against him?
Did he actually took care of my Kenyon car, so I raced against Mel. And
did you find out that you had the same cars, but his was wider than yours?
Yeah.
The Jonathan Byrd Racing has been around a long time, and your dad was involved with a number of short track. I know Rich Vogler, and I forget who else he had that he sponsored.
Fox.
I'm sorry?
Stan Fox.
That's right, Stan Fox. So he what was his connection? I mean, the man was into food. He was into something. How the heck did he get into racing?
Actually, he got into racing back in the 60s because he convinced his mom to buy a stock car.
So yeah, that's right.
My grandmother was one of the very first women to own a stock car in the USAC stock car circuit back in the 60s, and I think 67, 68. So that's where it started, and then, just racing's always in the blood at that point. So then he got started at the Speedrome as his own car owner in 1982 with the late models, and we added midgets a couple of years later and had both, and then we had the Indy car in 1985. So this will be our 33rd anniversary of our first run at the 500, and when Davison, when he qualifies, hopefully he qualifies, but when Jaynes qualifies, that'll be our 20th successful qualified car at Indy, but this will be our first run with the Indy Lights. So pretty excited about that too. I don't want to say I'm more excited about one than the other because I'm excited because I think Jaynes can do very well in the IndyCar, but I also think that Chris is going to perhaps surprise people in the Lights car as well.
I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of the Lights races over the last few years, but some of them have been the closest races in motorsports at the Speedway in history. So it's a good competitive series, and even though there's not a lot of cars in the series, everyone in there is capable of winning.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've gathered from watching. I've seen a few of the races, but I've been watching them all on YouTube a lot the last month, trying to do a little homework. So, looking forward to it.
Do you do anything on a simulator to familiar yourself with the Speedway and how it feels and what it looks like?
I have a simulator at home. It's not a top-notch simulator, but I have iRacing, and I would like to get in a simulator though.
Well, in case you hadn't heard, Darren Manning has one.
Okay.
Do you know Darren?
I don't.
Oh, you should. He's a great guy. He's a super guy. He used to drive for AJ, speaking of the devil. When you look at what you and your brother are doing now, you wonder, where do they have the time to play with race cars? But it's something that, I can remember seeing you got just young kids with your dad. Now, I know that your dad never drove. He probably had the same problem I did. He could get in the thing but couldn't get out. Your dad was a big man.
He was.
He was tall. He was, about 6'4", 6'5", 6'5". He was no peewee, but the last time I was at the Speedrome, he and I were standing in turn one talking, and, it just excited him to watch the competition, watch the races, and when I started thinking about it, some of the things he did with the world-class Bible collection he had, you'd never think of him in motorsports, but he was in it, and he loved it, and it was fun to listen to him, talk to him.
Well, he was a businessman. He liked the challenge of building businesses and putting the right pieces in place, whether it's at a restaurant or a hotel or a racing team. It's just there's a challenge to it about getting the sponsors, making it make sense, and there's a hospitality element to motorsports as well, where you're entertaining folks and bringing people together. So I kind of operate the same way, and every time I walk through the drive through the gates of the Speedway and go under there, I think about the legacy that he created for us to uphold, and a fantastic reputation that he created, and never had a moment of where it's questioned or sullied and all. So it's a lot to live up to in that regard. But it's a great exercise for me as well. It's made me a better businessman to do all that's necessary to make a successful, to even pull off an entry, whether or not it's successful on track. And it's a fun challenge, and we took a step back last year and didn't do anything substantial in racing at all, and then started working on putting all this together last June or so. And so it's good to be back and doing it in a bigger way, and hopefully a way that shortly after we get this one under our belt this year, we can start planning for next year. And we've got a long-term plan with Chris, and got another sprint car driver that we're sponsoring as well this year. Who's
that?
Kevin Thomas Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Sponsoring Kevin, and think that he's got a lot of potential to kind of maybe do the same thing down the road. But if Chris, I think, could go out and win this one, but we're still going to stick with the plan, though, which is to do this probably a couple times at the lights level, and then take that next step when it's appropriate.
How many hotels does your hospitality group have now? 5. And they're in Goodyear, Arizona, and Utah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 4 in Goodyear, just about 20 minutes from PIR, or ISM Raceway, as it's called now. Yeah. And then one in southern Utah, about 2 hours north of Las Vegas.
So, unfortunately, you have to go out there every so often?
To Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much as I would like, actually. I feel bad that I leave my managers out there just to be communicated via email primarily. But
yeah, when they're doing that, they're interrupting with you thinking about what we're going to do next in our racing program.
Yeah, yeah, they get the bills, that's for sure. they have to make the money to pay the bills so we can go racing. Do you remember Roman's Oasis? Of course. Is it still in existence, or has it been? It's still there, but it's not Oasis anymore. It's completely surrounded by houses and shopping and restaurants and everything. But is it functioning? Is it open and working? It's still there. It's still open. I know my oldest daughter has gone up before she moved out of town. She would go out there once in a while with some friends of hers, but I didn't realize she was a redneck. So. Well, when I first started going out there, it wasn't Oasis. It was nothing. Yeah, it was that and T-Bone Steakhouse were pretty much the only things that were anywhere to get to. And the last time still there. And the last time I was there, I went, "Holy Toledo, you got neighbors." Yeah, we do. I think there's an LA Fitness across the street from Rowan's now. Oh, really? So, yeah. Oh, geez, that's right. You go have something to eat and go across the street and work out. Yep. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I think it's exciting that David and JB have put together a program to bring you on with Bilardi, and in spite of what anybody says about John, he runs a pretty good program, and they're going to give you a good car, so it should be a lot of fun.
Hey, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Are you missing any races, or are you going to be able to fit them all in?
We're going to attempt it. I'm on track every day that week from Monday through Sunday, so we race Wednesday. We practice actually for the Little 500. I raced Terre Haute Wednesday night, Thursday, I qualify for the Freedom 100, go straight to Anderson, qualify for the Little 500, and then run the Hoosier 100 that evening. Friday's the Freedom 100, obviously, and then that evening's IRP with a 100-lap pavement Silver Crown race. Saturday's the 500 laps at Anderson, and Sunday we'll cap it off at Kokomo Speedway.
And he kicks off the week Monday in testing at the Lights Car at Indy. So it's a schedule. We're calling it Windom's Wild Week. So I think there will be some merchandise on that at some point. Well, I think Lauren's handling that. And he's doing something. We've got some history about some doing things that have never been done before. I kind of like that part of it. Whether it's John Andretti running the double for the first time in 1994, and my dad put that together, or the Indiana double with Clausen, or the Chasing 200 tour. This year, it's Chris's schedule is a schedule that no racer has ever attempted before. That week of Indy, so it's kind of neat.
And by Monday, you might say, I know why nobody ever wanted to try it.
I might be.
Well, I told him he needs to get a ride at the Outlaw Show in Lawrenceburg just to cap it off on that Monday night.
You are?
I don't know if I'll be able to pull that off.
Could you get a ride?
Possibly, but I think we'll end it Sunday night.
I see. Well, that's a good idea.
Just get Kenny to throw a wing on the 5.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to you. I think it's great to see you at the Speedway in the Freedom 100, and with any luck, and of course the backing of the Byrd racing team, there's a good chance you might end up there on a Sunday afternoon.
I sure hope so. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Chris Windom. And David Byrd, the Byrd racing family. My next two guests are on their way up here, I hope. Jim, are you on your way? Okay. I want to remind you that if you want to find out what's going on with either the IndyCar Series or the Mazda Road to Indy program, you got to subscribe to Trackside Online. So you go to their website, tracksideonline.com, and subscribe to it. I said it's only $23 or $24, something like that, and you'll get all kinds of information on things you never knew existed. You'll hear about it. It's great. You'll enjoy it. And
I thought there was a couch back here.
Yeah, there is. It's called a wall.
On the internet, it looks like a couch.
Well, I designed it that way so you think it's comfortable. If you'd have known this, you wouldn't have showed up.
This is my second time here. I was here back in 2010, I think. I wasn't a guest on the show, but Ari and Willie T. Ribbs were here. Very entertaining.
Willie T. was entertaining?
Willie T. Ribbs was here, yes, and he kind of kept it clean, too.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
Well, I have decided that when he comes to town, he usually brings Theo, his son. And I don't want to talk to Willie. I want to talk to his son. He just won a national championship against 3,000 shooters, and he beat them all. So I said, I got to talk to your old man.
Shooter, right? Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I said, your old man hadn't done anything in years. Heck with him. We'll talk to you.
There you go.
This gentleman I'm talking to, I'll let him sit aside for a minute. I'm going to introduce the lady first.
Well, thank you.
She is a resident currently with her sweetheart over here of Speedway, but they were in Monrovia for many years, and she is always involved in civic activities of one sort or another. And after coming to to Speedway, and taking a year or 2 years, whatever it was, to see what's going on, she has looked to get involved, and she was offered to be on by the town council for the art museum. And when I heard art gallery, and when I heard about it, I said, "Where in the heck is that?" I've been here 25 years. I didn't know there was one there. But she said, "We want to talk about what's going on there, and there's an artist that you might want to look at." And I said, "Oh, really? Who's that? Or what's her name?" No, it's not a her. He has some phenomenal art on racing. Well, okay, so we'll have him here. In the meantime, she's the one who got this whole thing started. Please welcome, I was going to say Mark Jaynes' wife, but I don't want to do that.
No,
Desiree.
please don't do that. This is my one time up here. I come here like tons of times with Mark, and I get to sit here, and now it's my turn to be here.
That's right, Desiree Jaynes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the artist who originally settled in Chicago in the architect world decided that wasn't exactly the plan to go. Now, my father was an architect, and he would have argued with you about that, but you got involved in motorsports and are an artist, and I've seen one of your works and went, wow, So we are going to talk about your art, a little bit about racing, but everybody talks in May about racing. I want to talk about your art.
Absolutely.
Please, and I got to, well, I'll tell you in a minute. Please welcome Mr. Jim Swintal. Look at that, your wife's applauding for you. Isn't that nice?
Absolutely. She's the hardest working PR person in Indy Lights show business.
I'll tell you that for a fact. I pester her constantly. Help.
Well, I want to give Diane thanks because it's because of her that Jim's here. Because when I went to an art council meeting, they were talking about securing our.
No,
Can you close it? Okay.
There you go.
Securing our artists for the month of May, and I sat there and I was like, okay, this is like my second meeting, and I know that Jim's a really good artist, and what do I say? So I went home that night and I sent Diane a direct message on Twitter and saying, hey, you think Jim might be interested in doing this? And she's like, oh yeah. So that's how we got the ball rolling. So Diane deserves a special round of applause for all that she's done to get this happening.
It's been a challenge. I wasn't really sure I wanted to do it because I'm awful busy month of May, race control, things like that.
But there's nobody in there tonight. I was there. It's empty.
That's correct. It's not open every night of the week.
Good.
Yeah.
So you have a master's degree, you're in education, you're an IUPUI, you teach kids and learn and put up with their nonsense.
Right.
Why do you like to get involved in community affairs?
I'm a firm believer that you give back to the community that gives to you. When we were at Monrovia for years with our kids, I was involved with the Morgan County Leadership Academy. I was on the steering committee. I was on various committees for I did post-prom, I did athletic councils, I did those various things. And I just became, I think something my parents always taught me, and I think it's just, I've always been a firm believer that you give back to what gives to you. So you need to volunteer your time to a community and help them, because not all of us can just write a great big huge check. I don't know, you can, Don, but I can't. And so
Really?
And so my whole point is that I decided that I wanted to get involved in something that helps the community and gives a different twist on Speedway. I mean, I think we're all known for the big town of racing, and the racing capital of the world, but we also have this wonderful art gallery there that promotes artists, and a lot of the artists are race-themed artists, so it's pretty cool.
What got you started in art? I mean, you were in architecture, so obviously you could draw or do something.
Yeah, well, when my mother taught me how to color in coloring books and stay within the lines, I took that very seriously. A few years later, about the time I came to Indianapolis, found myself copying pictures out of books, whether it be Indianapolis or sports car or whatever. And then went to the University of Notre Dame. I figured I'd sport the colors here. Women's NCAA basketball champions. Thank you very much.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, graduated with an architecture degree and was working in the field of architecture in Chicago. The field kind of spit me out at the same time I spit it out. But I needed something to fall back on. And I had a friend in the gallery business in the Chicago area who said if I made something that looked like it was worthwhile, that he'd sell it for me. And my artwork is a little bit of a derivative of the way we used to render buildings back in the 80s. There wasn't Photoshop back then. There wasn't digital artwork back then. I'm using that now. But back then, we used a lot of illustration board, pen and ink, markers, and put in the details with colored pencil. And so essentially that's the way I worked then, and that's the way I work now. I use very little paint. In fact, I'm a very sloppy painter. Aaron Telitz is a much better painter than I am because he's got the patience for it. But back when you're an architect and you're rendering stuff, you've got to answer the phone, you've got to get up, you've got to go to meetings, stuff like that. So it's sort of brick by brick, detail by detail type of thing, and that's the way I came up with the media that I use.
Are you an art fan? Do you recognize? I look at a painting and either I like it or I don't.
That's me, exactly.
That's what everybody should do.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not into certain styles or things like that. I just see something and I like it, So
I was at the Chicago Art Museum, and there was this thing that somebody, obviously me, just took buckets of paint and threw it. and they were saying, "Oh, isn't that beautiful?" Are you kidding me? Beautiful, my foot. I like to
Don't
see
ever go to the
something-
Tate Modern in London.
Yeah, well-
You'll walk out of there and want to shoot yourself.
Strangely enough, you brought some of your work.
Yes,
with
I
you.
did. And oddly enough, I got so wrapped up in promoting the show. I watched your show last week, and you said he's going to bring some art. Light bulb went off. Said, yeah, you should bring some art. So anyway, speaking of the Speedway, here's piece number 1. This is the four-way finish at the end of the Indy Lights race, the Freedom 100, back in 2013.
Aaron, are you looking at this? You see how close it is?
Folks, you don't appreciate architecture with applause. You appreciate art with applause. You appreciate it with oohs and ahs, please. This is an ooh. The next one will be an ah. Then there'll be another ooh and another ah. So remember that sequence. But anyway, you might be able to tell that an architect did this. There was another famous artist in the Indianapolis area who used to refer to me as the architect. All right, but the work is very contextual. There's a story being told here. There's Peter Dempsey, there's Gabby Chavez, there's Sage Karam, and there's Carlos Munoz, and that's the closest finish in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And there are the buildings that you can recognize, and the cars are in the right place. And essentially what I try to do is put together a scene that tells a story, not necessarily something that could be made with a camera, but just goes from there.
And I can't draw a straight line.
Anyway, that's number 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now the ah, all right? How about this one? Anybody remember this car? Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn Timmis is here, one of our observers. Everybody's got their own story about the 1967 500 that happened on the second day. There's Parnelli, and it's not just Parnelli's car, it's Parnelli taking the lead from 6th place on the backstretch of the first lap. So it tells a story. Mario Andretti has just been passed there, and Parnelli did confirm that Mario did flip him the Byrd as he went by. But
really?
As we all remember, Parnelli started 5th that day, 6th that day, and by the end of the first lap, he was all the way into the lead. He passed some famous guys in this picture: Gordon Johncock, Dan Gurney, A.J. Foyt, Joe Leonard, and the Unser brothers. They're all here, and they all got passed in those first two corners.
Amazing.
All right. So that's number 2. This is an ooh. Okay. This is Dario Franchitti and Takuma Sato during the last lap, first turn of the 2012 Indianapolis 500, right? That was Bo Barfield's first race as race director, and Bo took me aside, and he had heard that I was doing this, and he wanted to make sure that it was accurate from a officiating standpoint. So you can see that Dario is giving, or had given, Takuma a little bit of room. Dario's got 2 wheels up in the gray here, right? And that made Bo pretty happy. Takuma did us all, I think, a great favor by spinning in the corner there and letting the race finish that way. Because I think had he took the lead, he might have made the car pretty wide near the end of the race, the end of the lap there. But we did a really good job that day, and so did they.
Very nice.
All right. And our last piece here. This is an This was the.
Can you guys see?
This was the program cover and the official artwork for the Toyota Grand Prix. Did this last year. It is obviously in the theme of a travel postcard. Long Beach is quite the destination. Unfortunately, not all of us have been there, but I'm luckily enough to be able to call it my home course. But Jim McCallion, who is the shoe there, took me aside and said, we want to do something a little different. Not just a race car, not just a series of race cars, but tell a little story here. So the main image is is the cars coming out of the hairpin, but in the letters, just like an old time travel postcard, in the letters are all of the other events that make up the Long Beach Grand Prix, along with some of the icons. The Queen Mary is there, the aquarium is there, some of the skyline is there, and I was told, this is kind of an urban legend, but I was told that they ran out of these before the race was over, which is something that rarely happens.
I heard that too.
We were really happy with that one.
Hang on a second. So you can see it.
Thank you.
And Sharon was struggling. There. Okay, we've covered everybody.
Absolutely, and we'll have them here at the end too. One other thing is, one of these is going to stay here, and I would like to present it to you because you're such a hard-working guy, and I feel like because my wife has to hop through a couple of hoops every once in a while to keep you a hard-working guy. But
She sure is.
what I wanted to do is let the audience tonight decide which one should go to Uncle Don here. Should it be the
Long Beach.
sorry? Should it be this one? Should it be this one? A couple of those. Sounds like Long Beach. Should it be Long Beach? Or should it be Tacoma? All right. You're going home with one of these, all right?
Thank you.
Very nice.
What I will need is a rubber band from somebody because I forgot a rubber band, all right?
It so happens I have one here somewhere.
Thank you.
Little tiny one, won't work.
Anyway,
So when you go to the museum, or gallery, excuse me, what is it you look at and what are you trying to do as a community person?
Great, that's a great question, and thanks. To promote it, the gallery has been there for 10 years, and we are appointed. I'm appointed by the council. There's a few artists that are on the committee, and it's open to various artists in Speedway where they pay a membership to, and then they can display their artwork and sell it there at the gallery. So we're open throughout the course of the year. We have summer and winter hours. So of course our summer hours just started, and we're Wednesday through Saturday from noon to 9, I believe. I'm new, so if I make a few mistakes, I'm sorry, on the council, but I'm still learning. But some of the great things that we do, Don, is one of the things that I was just absolutely just thrilled to be a part of is, the Art Council gets each one of the 5th and 6th graders in all of the Speedway elementary schools to do an artwork. The art teacher works with them, a piece of art. And they donate the artwork to the council, to the art center, and we display it. And each night we have the school, Wheeler School comes in one night, and we have all of their students' artworks displayed there, and we frame it and everything else. And you think about that for a kid. I mean, that's a pretty awesome thing to walk into a gallery and see your artwork on the wall. And they donate it to us, and then we sell it for $20 for each artwork. So grandparents come in, and then the money goes right back to the schools. We turn around and give that back to the art department at the school. So this is one of the things that we do. Another thing that we're really big in, just recently started, and it's really working out well, the Noble Center, which are for special people that are there. They do some artwork, and they bring it, and we provide them with a little space to hang it, and then they work at our center. They'll do a shift with one of their workers that come in, and they'll do a shift, and they'll help us with greeting people at the door and promoting the artwork of all the different artists, and then they help sell it and just learning how to do all of that. So, we give back to the community, and we promote art and artwork, and so we're pretty excited about that.
How did your work find its way into the front door?
As we mentioned at the beginning of the show here, Desiree had seen my stuff before.
We have one of Jim's pictures. It's wonderful.
There you go. See, you grease the wheels in the right way, but anyway,
I've never learned how to do that.
I'm very happy to be involved with this. This is racing, so we also have to thank our sponsors at the same time.
Sure.
And Foyt Wine Vault stepped up and is underwriting the show for us.
Yes.
And let me tell you something, they really know their stuff as far as wine goes. I'm from California. I'm not a wine snob, I'm a wine lover. There's a subtle difference there, but for a Texas-owned operation that is in Indiana, they know a lot about world-class wine, and their stuff is really good.
Yes, it is. I'm also a wine club member. Love it.
Now, you just briefly have been involved in motorsports for a number of years, and you are currently with the race control.
Yes.
For which series?
I actually work in race control for IndyCar, for Mazda Road to Indy, and also IMSA, International Motorsports Association, working with the WeatherTech series. I was at Mid-Ohio, and I got to see the Elio Castroneves win over the weekend.
And Honda was thrilled with that because they've been fast, and they've had a pole.
He didn't climb the fence. We were kind of disappointed over there that he didn't climb the fence. But I guess there were 2 drivers per car, and when they finished the race, he wasn't driving. So I guess that's his. If he's not driving, he's not going to climb the fence.
But he'll take the win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And didn't NASCAR buy IMSA? I think
Yes.
they did.
Yes, absolutely.
And they just bought ARCA. And now I just read today that they may be up for sale.
That's possible. I
Well,
don't know anything about it, but
I don't either, but I just heard it. And I was talking to Mark, and Mark said maybe you and I get together and buy it. I think that was a
Mark
dream.
who?
Yeah, that's what I said too, Mark
I want to
who.
make sure.
For those of you who may not know, and I can't imagine if you're in the room you don't, but she is married to the anchor for the IndyCar series and the voice of the 500, Mark Jaynes.
What a guy. And he has very good taste in art, too.
Yeah, and I have to say, a lot of my success is, what little there is because of him, because he's told me everything not to do.
He does that a lot.
Well, you know, when you called me and said, can we do this, we want to talk about the art gallery, and I said, yeah. And I went to somebody and said, where the hell is there an art gallery? I had no idea. Why is it such a secret?
I don't know if it's a secret. It's just we're not for profit, and we're trying to get our word out there. We're trying to do more and try to do some more promoting. I was hoping Jim's the Dario picture is our.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim's picture here. That's Dario.
It's on the ad for the show.
For the show, so it's all over Facebook and whatnot. And then tomorrow, it said that Vistaprint said that rest of everything would be here by tomorrow. So I was hoping by tomorrow meant today, so I could have some for you. But I will bring some over here to promote Jim's show, which will be next Tuesday night. And I know you all are going to be here with Don. But as soon as you're done, you need to come down to the art gallery because this is the opening for Jim's show will be from 7 to 9.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
So you can leave here at 8:30 and get there by 9.
Certainly.
And we got some good guests.
We'll save some salami and something come along for you.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Did you hear that, Howdy? Free food.
Yes.
But we've got some good guests, so you might want to stop here first. Wait until you see who we're going to get, I think. How much time can you devote to art?
Not as much as I should, or not as much as I could because of all the traveling. Between IMSA and IndyCar and Mazda Road to Indy and MX-5 and all of that with Anderson Promotions, I'm on the road maybe 180 days a year, and I finally got to the point. I kind of hoped I would do this as a young artist, is not be able to do be able to turn work down. No, I can't do that, But I work with my hands. That's basically leaving money on the table, so it's frustrating at the same time. But I'm certainly not prepared, not ready to give up the officiating and the race control yet. The two kind of go hand in hand. Traveling around with the IndyCar community, traveling around with the IMSA community, gets my stuff noticed, gets me artwork, and the fact that I am self-employed and have a very loose schedule allows me to work all these races.
When you get an idea for a picture, where do you get your ideas?
It starts up here. This one here of the finish of the 2013. I thought of it as soon as I saw the photo finish come up on the board. I want to do that. That's the moment actually almost brought me to tears. It was just so amazing to actually be there and be part of that. And then I thought about it, but I knew I wanted to show it from an angle that was different from anybody else that's seen it. So what I did is I reversed it. Since Peter Dempsey won the race, and Peter Dempsey was on the outside, he has to be the biggest car in the picture. So I think it was a year later or something like that, I went out there, I made a photograph of the background hanging off the fence and said, if somebody asks me to do this at some point, and Brian Bellardi did, and John Bruner did a few years ago, so I had the idea ready in my head. As far as the process goes from head, goes to finding reference photos, some of which I make myself, some of which I use the official photographers from all the series. They give me access to their websites, and I'll take all the images and put them together in Photoshop. And I do all the composing in Photoshop, and then print out the Photoshop piece. That's sort of my baseline. I'll start drawing and sketching over that. And again, that was a very sort of organic way, the way we created architecture back in the 70s and 80s. You started with an idea, you traced a different version on top of it, and on top of it, and it got better and better.
My dad, as I said, was an architect in Chicago, and I'd sit and watch him, and he had tracing paper. We had tracing paper in the house. We had everywhere.
Yes, you did. It takes over.
And he was the head architect of the company, and he'd get an idea.
Excuse me, who did he work for?
For himself, Barry and Kay.
Okay.
They were at 53 West Jackson. Was their office?
Fine address.
Yes, it was.
I worked for Skidmore, Owings and Merrill for 8 years.
Yeah, okay.
You
knew
knew
them
them?
well. Oh, yeah, knew them well. But he'd sit there, and he'd draw. He had big pencil and big, thick, and he'd start drawing. And a guy walked through one day, he was a graduate architect, and he said, "That's what architects do?" My dad said, "Yeah, that's how it starts.
They
You
do
get
it
an
all on
idea,
machines now for the most part.
and they drew it, and he'd get an idea, and then he'd erase, and he'd change, and that's how he did
Layer
it.
after layer after layer.
Yeah. Do you freehand paint the stuff? As I said, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. Do you freehand?
Some of the accents, and if I got a building to draw or something like that, yeah, I'll use a straight edge. I'm actually trying to be a little looser. When I started out, the pieces that I made were even tighter than this, and they got a little fussy. And over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, when I've had to increase my output, some people will just ask for a sketch, not a full-colored piece of art, and or to illustrate what I want to show. As far as, because I'm an architect, I don't want my client to be surprised. All right, so I'll show them a little thumbnail sketch beforehand, so they'll help me change it around, that type of thing. But it just goes from there.
Can you do a picture of her smile?
I can do a picture of anything I'm given a good model for, and she would work absolutely,
Okay.
no doubt about it.
Do you sell a lot of your work?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have a website, jimswintal.com.
Really?
It has not been updated recently, but
I know.
As soon as the beginning, yes, you've been there. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to be putting the show stuff on it. jimswintal.com. You got to spell my name right. It's T-A-L.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and his artwork will be for sale at
Yes,
the gallery.
yes, it will be for sale.
And it'll be there the whole month of May.
Yep.
So we're going to hang pictures hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to get ready to get the gallery ready.
Well, you got to get going because Thursday you got to start doing something in a tower.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Interferes with all the other.
This is a tough weekend for us in race control. The sort of the foot soldiers that are up there, not the race directors, but the communicators and the analysts and those people. It's just Mazda Road to Indy, and it's just Indy cars. There are no other sessions or no other groups to take off. So we're in there from morn till night for 3 days.
You're not kidding. I just sent my grandson. He's coming here for the first time he's ever seen a race, and he said, "What's the schedule for Saturday?" He said, "Boy, a lot of races. 4 races."
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, I thank you for your time. Thank you for calling and talking about this and wanting to make
You
it
made
happen.
this happen.
Yes, you did.
Absolutely.
No problem. My pleasure.
And what's the address of the gallery? Since I'm too stupid, I don't
It's
even know where it is.
1460 Main Street. It's right there.
It's
right
across
away.
the street from Harding's new joint.
Yeah, Harding.
You
and
can see
Laura.
it from Harding's front door.
So now I gotta walk over to Harding and look across the street and then find it and then go get it.
I'm sure that's the way you would
Right
find
next to,
it.
is it Bell Helmets?
Maybe
Bell
I could-
Helmets? Yeah, Bell Helmets. We're right next door to Bell Helmets.
Well, maybe I can get Fluffy to take me, because I'll get lost. Okay, I'll be in good shape.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for coming, Jim. It was nice to see you and meet you and see your work.
Thank you.
And Desiree, I'm certainly glad that you called to make this happen. Hopefully you'll get swamped with people.
Well, that's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping.
Well, you're going to get me, because I didn't even know the damn thing was there.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll see you after the show then next week.
Okay.
Thanks for having us on. Let's have a hand for this guy.
Yeah, he does a
He
great
works so
job.
hard. Come on.
Diane does the work.
You got a print out of it. Good for you.
Yeah, and she can tell when somebody calls and hear, oh, it's him again, crying, looking for somebody. I thank you for coming, both of you. Thanks for the idea. I hope people come down and see it. I'll be down there to take a look at it. And you've seen his art. You want to go take a look at it. You might want one in your house, too. Jim Swintal, Desiree, Jaynes.
Thank you.
Next week, I have confirmed Ed Jones will be here. And I have a couple others that are pretty tentative that will be very interesting. Now, the other thing, when I first started this program in 1996, the first 2 or 3 years of the Indy Racing League, I had all 33 drivers here on the Tuesday before the race. Now, they're all out of town on Tuesday. They get on a plane and they fly them all over the country. So that's not going to happen, but I've got some pretty good things upcoming, and you'll hear about it next week. But Ed Jones next week, and a couple others you'll be glad to see. Hope we'll see you there. Till next week, Don K. saying thanks for watching. Thanks for being. Good night.
I'll